Hi, I'm Edward Cheng. I'm the neuromuscular therapist here in the state of California, and today I'm going to go ahead and discuss with you the basics of muscle contraction and why knots are formed and how knots are formed. Now, this is the most current theory, so as of right now, this is the theory of how muscles contract and how knots are formed. There are other theories out there, but I'm going to show you the one that is most commonly used for massage therapists. Now, here we're going to have a little bit of a drawing, and hopefully you can follow, but let's just go ahead and draw this first. Now, this is the membrane. This is basically every single one of your cells has these. It's surrounding the cell. It's preventing stuff from getting in and out. And you have to have this here because guess what? There's viruses, there's all this stuff trying to get in and mess up with your DNA and mess up the cell and make it all dysfunctional and not working, and it's trying to kill you. So we don't want that. So that's what this membrane is for. Sorry, I'm gonna not say it by its scientific names. This is the membrane. It's trying to prevent things from going in. So this membrane, this plasma membrane, I'm just gonna call it plasma membrane because that's what it is. Okay, sorry. It's so hard to say it without saying the scientific name. This plasma membrane here is preventing things from getting in and out. And what we have is these guards that basically allow or filter out things that get in and out. Now, some things will go right through and bypass security, basically. These policemen that are like standing there, standing guard. Some things would just go by and bypass security. And that's a good thing because some of those things we need to bypass security. But sometimes the things that shouldn't get in bypass security and we have a whole bunch of problems. But for the most part, this membrane here is protecting us, and we got these police guards that are trying to basically filter out what comes in and what comes out. And basically, for your muscle contraction, what happens is this little chemical guy, this little guy, is basically the boss. And the boss goes ahead and tells these policemen what can come in and out. And so this boss, this head honcho, comes right over, is released, and tells his workers, his police, I want you to let this guy in. So let's let this triangle in. And so triangle goes in to the cell and is now through the cell. Now every single time this guy comes in and says let the triangles in, there's lots of triangles out here. There's lots of them. And they're all trying to get in. So a flood, you can imagine, a flood of triangles go into the cell. And these triangles tell the cell, go ahead and contract. Go ahead and contract. And these triangles are there to go ahead and tell the cell to contract. And that's all they do. They tell the cell to contract, 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 contract. So in your muscle cells, this is what's going on. These triangles are flooding through the gates and they're telling the muscle cell contract, 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 contract. Now, how does your muscle cell uncontract? That's these guys leaving. They have to leave. Now, naturally, if you're in a building and there's two sides of a building, let's say there's a wall or barrier between the two sides of the building, what's the natural tendency for people to do? They want to go throughout the entire building. They want to use the entire area, right? Especially when we get more and more people. They're going to start flooding to the second side of the half of the building, and they're going to try to even it out. That's what these triangles are trying to do. They're trying to go from both sides. They're trying to even out. So they don't want to go. They don't want to get out. Most of them don't want to get out. So what we need is energy. Energy to get them out. So there's another police guard, and this is police guards that are at the exit. So let's say that this is the entrance. Let me go ahead and write this down for you. Here's the entrance, and here's the exit. Let me write that down for you. So here's the entrance, and here's the exit for them to get out, for little triangles to get out. So this triangle, there's going to be lots and lots of triangles inside the cell. And they want to get out. They need to get out to let your muscles uncontract. And what happens is that your cells need to produce this energy. And so we're just going to put E. They need energy to go ahead and take these triangles out. And so for every triangle, this little E needs to come in, attach, tell the police guards, hey, it's okay to let them out. Pretend it's the boss on the inside, maybe. Okay, so this boss on the inside, this E guy, tells the policeman, it's okay, let them out. And it lets the triangles back out. And again, when you want to contract, the triangles are let back in. A signal comes in saying go back out. And the guy in the inside, the E, the boss on the inside, tells the triangles go back out. And this happens again and again and again. Now, this E, this boss on the inside, let's say he doesn't live very long. Let's say he doesn't live very long and he has to be created. They die like flies for some reason. Okay, let's say that this guy is always the 100-year-old that comes in, and he's the 100-year-old boss that is always about to die. And for some reason, this company is just so inefficient that they always hire this guy that's 100 years old to do this. So he dies very easily. After every couple of triangles goes in, he dies, and the police don't know what to do without him. And so they just stop, and they don't let the triangles out anymore. And that's basically what happens inside the cell. Is they don't last very long. This ATP, this energy source, this E, this energy, there's not very much of it. There's not very much of it. So we have to keep producing it because it gets used very, very easily. So we have to create multiple E's to allow the triangles out, to allow your body to relax. Now what happens is when you're contracting, there's this blood supply that's coming in, this vein that's coming in, okay? And what's happening is that every time you're contracting, you're pushing on this vein right here, and it's pushing on it. And this vein is providing a very essential ingredient that is needed to make this E. And this vein actually creates a substance that easily gets in and out. In and out. It's so small. It's a little dot. Let's say this vein produces a little dot, this oxygen basically. And it needs this oxygen to get into the cell to produce this E, to produce this energy. It produces all these dots to go ahead and produce energy to make the E so that the triangles can exit out. So when you're contracting, what's happening is you're pushing, and then you're starting to reduce the amount of dots. And they start to slowly disappear, and there's no more E available. And when there's no more E available, your triangles can't get out. And that's basically what happens in the cell. Is that the more and more you contract, the less and less triangles can get out. And that's the foundation behind why a knot forms. Is because it's going to stay contracted if these triangles can't get out. And that's why when you contract for way too long, and you're starting to reduce that blood supply, eventually the triangles can't get out, and that's when you get a knot starting to form. Because the more and more you contract and the more and more those triangles can't get out, the more and more your muscle's going to stay in that contracted state, and that's what forms the knot. And that's the basics behind your knots. So, I hope that was understandable. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail a little bit later on, but you can come and check that out next time. So, hope you like that, and see you next time.